Hello and welcome to This Is Us. I'm Becca King-Reed. I'm inside the skeleton of a blue whale. You know, blue whales are the largest animal ever to be on Earth, larger even than dinosaurs, and this one is right outside of Long Marine Lab in Santa Cruz. You could come here and stand in this spot yourself. Tonight we're going to go inside Long Marine Lab and take a look at the studies that they are doing in there on marine life. We'll also get up close and personal with some dolphins. I'm here with UCSC's Director of Marine Sciences, Dr. Gary Griggs. Thanks for letting us come by and see you today.
My pleasure.
We're standing in front of quite the specimen. Can you tell us a little about who's here?
Who's here? Well, we're looking at a gray whale skeleton, and one of the neat things about the Marine Lab is we've got whales swimming offshore, we've got skeletons of whales, we've got animals in captivity that we do research with, and we actually also have fossil whales from 3 to 5 million years ago. So gray whales are the ones we see migrating along the coastline here, and they undergo the longest migration of any marine mammal we know, about 5,000 to 6,000 miles every year from the Bering Sea to the Mexico.
That is really something. That's quite the journey. And you can see them going by here every once in a while, and it's kind of fun to see them in the water. But if you really want to get a sense of the size of what you're seeing, this is a good place to come. But not all the animals that you have here are fossilized. No. Tell us what you're doing here. What's the mission of Long Marine Lab?
Well, being part of the University of California, we've got 3 main missions. One is research, one is education, and one is outreach. And so we do all of those here. It's a perfect place sitting here on the coastal bluff. So our research animals are a wide group of marine mammals, from dolphins, sea otters, sea lions, elephant seals, and we have both captive animal research. These are probably more like your domestic cats and dogs than wild animals. And we do things that you could not do in the wild. We can see animals out there, we can see whales, we can see dolphins. We don't know much about them. So in captivity with trained animals, we can find out how they really behave, what their requirements are, you know, what it takes to keep them healthy, how they're affected by sound. So we have this unique laboratory with tanks and pools and a good seawater system, so we can keep these animals here for long periods of times. And really it helps in the long run to conserve those animals, because the more we know about them, the better we can manage them in the wild, as well as understand sort of what their requirements are, what might be affecting their health, and so forth.
We're out here on the coast. This is Santa Cruz's coast, and we're right about at Natural Bridges. And tell us a little bit about what's special about the coastline here.
Well, I think the most important thing is really a dramatic coast. It's changing all the time, and if you go to Natural Bridges, it's actually Natural Bridge today.
So true, yeah.
We used to have 3 bridges or 3 arches, then 2 and then 1, and the waves, the kind of pounding of the waves, the winter storms continue to move the coastline back. It's failing. Most of the California coast, probably 90% of it, is eroding. As sea level rises, which is happening, it's going to move back further. But we have a pretty resistant stretch of coast right here in front of the Marine Lab, which is a nice thing for us. And turns out there's a platform, there's a shelf right in front of the cliffs here that makes tide pooling at Natural Bridges what it is, but it also protects us, so that in fact as the waves break, they lose a lot of energy. It's like a natural breakwater. But it's an exciting place to come and watch the waves break on the cliffs in the winter months.
And so this is one of the few places in California where there is a spot of little erosion. And you have a great example of that. Can you tell us about that, the piece of wood sticking up back there?
Well, there's a mast of a ship, and it turns out in 1924 there was a little local freighter that went onto the rocks here, this resistant shelf, one night, and the local people came out and, you know, got the people off the ship, and they took the mast off and leaned it up against the bluff and used it with a cable to salvage all the sardines on board. And that mast is still sitting there 86 years later, which shows at that particular location the cliff has not moved at all in 86 years, which gave us a little security in terms of building our Marine Discovery Center 100 foot back from the cliff edge. So it's a sharp contrast to Natural Bridges, where failure has continued to take place within a half a mile of it.
Oh yeah, well, and if you get a chance to come out and look at the mast, now knowing what it is, it's not an old telephone pole, it is a lot more interesting. I'm here with Tracy Kendall, a researcher at the Long Marine Lab, and she has a pal, Primo. Can you tell us about the research that you're doing here?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about some of the heart rate research that we're doing with Primo, and the reason that we're doing this is to be able to look at how their heart rate changes with different types of activity, and this is a good indicator for us to be able to know if there's things that are happening out in the ocean to wild animals that could be potentially startling them and causing their heart rate to be elevated to levels that are unsafe for them.
Like human interaction.
Right.
Things that we do.
Right, or just noise from shipping lanes or anything like that.
Okay. Well, how are you able to do that?
We are able to do that by use of this fancy O'Neill wetsuit that we have here.
The one and only dolphin wetsuit.
Yeah, and encased in this pocket here is a heart rate monitor. And then coming off of that are 2 electrodes that are embedded in suction cups. The reason for that is that we can't glue things onto dolphins because their skin is so slick and they're generating new layers constantly. Somewhere between
shed everything.
Yeah, somewhere between 7 and 12 layers a day.
Wow.
They're generating new skin.
That's why they have such lovely skin.
Yeah, and so we need these electrodes embedded in suction cups to be able to stick on the dolphin. And so the wetsuit holds 2 functions. One is to be able to keep this pocket and the heart rate monitor attached to him so it's not just trailing off behind, and then also to help keep these electrodes tightened down on him.
Okay, well that looks pretty elaborate, and he is really very kindly letting you do all this.
Yeah, so he's a well-trained animal, and he's generally pretty cooperative with us for these types of activities, although, you know, he did have to be trained to do all of this. He didn't just do it naturally.
Now, how fast can he swim in the water?
These guys can swim somewhere between 25 and 30 miles per hour when they're doing their big bursts of speed.
So when they're doing that, you're measuring how quickly their heart goes.
Right.
At speeds of 30 miles an hour. Man, that is fast.
So then once we have all of his wetsuit on, then we're able to monitor his heart rate and check out everything that we need to know, and then it'll be downloaded and analyzed in a lab at a later time.
Okay, so you just send him underwater and and off he goes, and then you can get your data.
Right. So generally we're doing this with the help of a scuba diver, but because I'm up here talking to you, I can't be underwater right now. So we don't have a scuba diver at this moment, but I can just send him down to the window and show you how he can just rest still.
Okay.
And then he knows that once he's sent that he has to stay underwater until he hears my whistle, which is a signal to tell him that he's done the behavior correctly and he can return to the surface. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Now we don't hear it. Oh, we can hear it. And so can he. Up he comes. What a good subject. He's a good sport. Who designed this? This is a very interesting study. Who came up with this idea?
So this study was designed by our principal investigator, Dr. Terry Williams, and she is actually in Antarctica right now studying Weddell seals, which we study along with a Hawaiian monk seal and some southern sea otters that we have. And her ultimate dream is to be able to have a big center that we're able to do research and education and study things that would apply to animals both here in the United States as well as internationally.
Well, that sounds very exciting. We hope that happens for you. Dr. Griggs, we are at the Seymour Center. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Seymour Marine Discovery Center, which we're standing in front of here, is our public education, our outreach center. So one of the things we do here is to take the science that our marine researchers are doing and try to convey that to the public, whether it's residents or visitors, whether it's school kids or grandparents, really trying to get the message out of what the oceans are about, why they're important to us, why we need to take care of them. So it's sort of a message of marine conservation, and done in a way that anybody can come and understand. We're open 7 days a week during the summer and every day but Monday during the week. It's an incredible place to come and bring your family, bring your kids, bring your relatives. And I think the single most important message I would leave you with is that a quote from Nelson Mandela, who said that education is the most powerful tool we have for changing the world. And the Seymour Center is really about education and trying to make sure we preserve the world we have.
That's a great message, and it's a great place to really see all the science that's done here by the many biologists, put in context in a way that you can really understand it. And thank you so much for bringing us in and letting us see what you're up to. This has really been a great day.